morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folarin. Yeah, it was involuntary sort of started with a small smile there, and that's against the backdrop of the news yesterday that 5 insurgents, Boko Haram insurgents, reportedly of the Al-Banawi group, surrendered to the Nigerian army, where this was, I think, according to the news by Colonel Aminu Iliasu yesterday, he says that prematurely it's hunger that has, in preliminary investigation, say that interrogations of the people who had deserted and were now in the hands of the army, it was hunger in addition to the incessant bombings of the Nigerian army that had led them to desert. And as I said, according to the report, they're said to be of the Al-Banawi faction of Boko Haram. Now, yeah, it's you know, a bit encouraging, this news that we hear, but of course it's like a blip in the ocean, and we have suffered through the army reverses. Our boys are attacked, their convoys are ambushed. We're getting depressing reports of men and officers, equipment being stolen, trucks, Nigerian army trucks. So there are those who are criticizing that, you know, it looks like these guys are running rings around us, leading people to even say that they doubt, they're not sure what kind of a strategy the Nigerian army is deploying. All of that to one side. It's a tough job that they're doing. And my guest this morning to look at it, Curtis Adigba, he's a lawyer and public affairs analyst. As always, Curtis, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Good morning. And Colonel Hassan Stanlabo, retired security consultant.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel, for coming on as well. So that's the news we have. But the hunger part, according to Colonel Iliasu of the Nigerian Army Media, coordination, according to that gentleman, well, well, not so much according to him. The hunger part, well, he was the guy who told us about the hunger part, but this reminds me that the Nigerian army also has its issues, and about a fortnight ago complained, in fact, shut down one of the aides working in the country, Action Against Hunger. You know, so that's the link that I saw that said, wait a minute, about 2 weeks ago, the Nigerian army was complaining about this group. See, look, you're feeding the enemy, you know, and we don't even need to be a soldier to understand. You're feeding the enemy, you're aiding them. That's the view we have. We don't talk about aid groups. You people go about your business. But in the case of Action Against Hunger, the reports say that the Nigerian army has repeatedly warned this particular group and now has decided to shut them down. Well, not now. This story is about 2 weeks old. Of course, there are those that would have mixed minds about it, but I guess we have our objectives, and we are also taking the heat. We are taking the losses. So I suppose it's a fine age, this whole matter about how we deploy this particular campaign, because we want to be seen to be doing the right thing. Our army is going to be behaving like a professional army. But when we didn't talk about it at the time when this news broke about 2 weeks ago. But now that we hear that 5 of them have actually surrendered in a couple of local government areas in Borno State, I guess we could look at it and see how far all these kind of things are complicating the issues for us. Let me start with you, having the military background. There's this problem where you have an assignment to do. There are also global best practices. There are international best practices that the Nigerian army, subscribes to. Is it a delicate tightrope? Because the army was quite plain in saying that we consider you to be aiding the enemy, and we're not going to stand for that.
Thank you, Yori. Just like I was saying before we actually came on air, Nigeria is a sovereign nation with its clear-cut national interests. We do not need anybody outside our shores to define to us what our national interests should be. And government has a responsibility by virtue of its social contract with the people to ensure that it meets its responsibility to the people through protection of lives and property and what have you. Nigeria must be secured, and we, the Nigerians in Nigeria, are the ones taking the hit. Not somebody outside Nigeria who is too comfortable and at the slightest turn tells you you are breaching one international convention or the other without looking deep into what's involved. If you are an international organization and you are to operate in Nigeria as a sovereign country, you must abide by the rules and regulations of Nigeria. I have operated under the UN in a foreign country. Mm-hmm. In Sudan, for instance, where we went out in respect of the Janjaweed issues and so on, Nigeria was a contributing country to that operation. The Sudanese government, at times, draws the UN's attention to violations to its sovereign rights, to its sovereignty. And all we need to do is to adjust.
Okay.
You adjust because you must respect the country. It's a sovereign nation. At times they complain, even right to the UN SecGen, who often talks back to the UN High Representative in the country. And you see us adjusting, either our defense or this or that and so on. But the most important thing is that we'll try to make sure we keep the peace. The same thing here. You cannot come and start feeding the enemy and making him stronger. And you want us to sit and watch. An enemy who will know that if it had been left on its own, it will not be able to arrive at those things, and it will quickly hasten the stoppage of whatever is ongoing. Why is the Red Cross not being accused? These are questions we should ask.
Or the Red Crescent. Or the Red Crescent, for that matter.
And in your own case, several warnings had been served.
According to the army.
Yes, to you. And you continue instilling that threat?
Well, Curtis, what I've read, you most likely would have read it as well, is that, of course, the Action Against Hunger's response, if not defense, because it didn't actually defend. It simply stated that all it's just doing is what it's mandated to do, especially as it relates to women and children, but then did not address the Army's specific accusations. And it just put this on its website out there. But as I was saying, the Army had shut it down, and they are now appealing that they need to be allowed to be able to continue to do their work. This is a story that sort of was linked in our mind by the fact that it is what it is, and then 5 Boko Haram insurgents yesterday of the Al-Banawi faction have surrendered to the army, and the army says preliminary interrogations have shown that hunger is among the problem that they are getting. How do you see it as well?
Okay. First of all, let me start by thanking Colonel Labo for his service to the country, and also to other military men who are making the ultimate sacrifice to keep us safe and to preserve the unity and integrity of the country. We cannot be more gratitude. We can't show more gratitude enough. We don't have words to describe the sacrifice that they are making on behalf of the country. And I think the nation is grateful to them. Having said that, you also understand that whenever you have a warlike situation or active warfare going, it also creates a market, depending on what the intentions of the participants are. And in most cases, as we have seen, even in much, much bigger international conflicts, some of these non-state actors don't actually come as people who are marketers or who have economic interests. They come by way of charity or by way of some social intervention. But then, there are internationally recognized protocol or mechanism for doing what they say they want to do. If you want to look after women and children that are vulnerable in warfare situations, there are clear scripts or methods that you must follow. And you must take the government along. Now, Red Cross, is actively involved in supplying those who are trapped, in the theater of war, providing basic necessities for them. And they don't have to hide it. They don't have to profit out of it. And the government is usually aware, and all the other international organizations that are pouring in funds or giving the incentives or aids are also aware. So the problem with the particular case that we have is I think it looks like some people were profiting from what was happening. And that, of course, was not going to aid the cause of ending that conflict, because it will continue to incentivize those who are involved because there's profit.
And so the almighty, that whole capitalistic aspect to our situation here.
It's a big market.
That is a business.
There are people selling arms also and ammunition.
Frankly, he has opened an area which I didn't want to go into, but I felt as we discuss, as we progress
it'll come up.
we shall talk about it. And that is the do I call it the commercialization of this ongoing war in the Northeast, especially by non-state actors, like Iraq stated. A non-state actor will arrive Maiduguri and take an accommodation, huge, fantastic, expensive accommodation,
That's right,
and pay 10, 15 years
yes,
because of the Northeast war. So you mean in your mind, you envisage this war should last another 15 years? And that's what we see ongoing. These are some of the things that are very disturbing to those of us as citizens who want this thing ended on time. You wish to visit the Northeast, you will weep. I'm telling you, you will weep for fellow Nigerians, just like what we saw in the East during the Nigerian Civil War, where you see Kwashoko-looking kids. You will really weep at these fellow Nigerians. Then you come and you are making your money and you don't give a damn. That is what is ongoing. A lot of people, like you rightly said, are benefiting silently from what is ongoing. And they will make everything to see that this thing does not end on time. And it's simple to understand. If you were to be a food supplier, for instance, say to troops, and you are in the good books of the military, and they've taken your company as a big-time contractor, and you are definitely, somehow you'll be wishing, let this thing not end on time, and making good money out of it. So that is on the positive side anyway. But when you look at it from the other angle, you know that, look, we should be wary of some of these non-state actors that are operating in the Northeast. The military should really open its eyes, because they are the ones there, to see who are those that are really on our side. That is the point, Yori. And if I were to maybe say something on those 5 insurgents,
yes,
whom the public relations officer talks about, I think, Yori, is a good sign, it's a good omen to me, if their confession was that, look, because of hunger, we are breaking away in search of food and so on, and we are dashing off from our camps.
Yeah.
Okay? And if that is the case, it means, as a matter of fact, the bombardments ongoing by the air component, is really making an impact on ground. Because the air component has actually been targeting their logistics centers and so on, dislocating the enemy. In asymmetric warfare, in most cases, you talk about dislocation of the enemy, so that even when he is not killed, look, he has nothing to fall back to.
He's not an effective fighter anymore.
Thank you. With hunger, you can't fight. They'll tell you that soldiers ride on their bellies.
Yeah.
With hunger, you can't fight. You want to carry GPMG and be running for kilometers in an empty stomach? It's not possible. Let's be frank.
Mr. Lee, I will sound a word of caution here, because I also know, like you rightly mentioned, this is an unconventional warfare situation. And you're going to see unconventional tactics deployed by the enemy. Look, it's heartwarming to know that hunger has become part of the deployables of the military in trying to take advantage of the warfare situation. But I also want the military to be very, very cautious about how they taking these guys. You never can tell. They're probably on a mission to gather more intelligence for their group.
Correct.
Because how do you monitor them? After some time, they can disappear and then go back and rejoin the forces. Because of the unconventional nature of this warfare, you have enemies hanging around as friends. We call them frenemies. They're pretending to be your friend because they live in the midst of the people. They are even friends to some of these guys. The problem is that our soldiers do not know that these are combatants on the other side. And so when people come in and tell these kind of stories, I know that these professionals have the requisite skills to be able to debrief them and ensure that the stories that they are telling is indeed true. But they should be cautious.
Well, they can't be too cautious.
Yes, they
naturally.
should be cautious.
And I'm sure the Nigerian army knows that better than most.
Yeah,
and,
they go through some profiling and so on.
Exactly. Mr. Abubakar in Kaduna, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Sir, I want to recommend you for the programs you guys are running down there.
Thank you very much.
Nigerian government are doing their best to see that all efforts have been made, put in place to make sure that the Boko Haram issues end on time in the northeast. But the issue that our military also has to double their efforts to see that nobody is benefiting from all this kind of insurgence that is happening in the northeast. People are dismantled all over the nations. Even some are going even outside the IDPs, are even going to the neighboring countries to see a place where to start another new livelihood. What I want to say here is that let our military double their efforts and keep sentiment aside.
Okay.
They should stop thinking of what to benefit from it. They should look at the masses on issues, so that they will end up these Boko Haram issues on time.
Mr. Abubakar, I thought that's the army's sole purpose.
Yes, sir.
I don't imagine that they're thinking...
The issue of this Boko Haram, it has been for a while now, for over...
Well, yes, yes. This
but
is...
if it happens, the military are doing the best. They are putting things in order. They could have finished this Boko Haram on time. Because if you look at when our military goes out on mission, they did very well. They exceed. But why is it that in our...
Mr. Abubakar, okay, thank you very much. We did get the gist of what you're saying. This is a thing that worries, the issue that Mr. Abubakar brings up, it worries most ordinary Nigerians, as opposed to maybe professionals.
I am not a military man.
Yes.
And I think the colonel can speak to that better. But I think Nigerians need to temper their expectation about how soon this war is going to end. Because this is not just a combatant operation. This war has got an ideological bent.
Yeah.
And like I said before...
And it has external backers.
Yeah, you cannot defeat ideology. You can only displace ideology with a better ideology.
Which is the exact point the Chief of Army Staff made.
When people just think that, we have a group of ragtag soldiers kept in one place, and then the Nigerian military might will just go there and they just shell the place, and the war is ended.
It's not conventional.
No, for a very long time, because this is an ideological war, and they have support from outside. They believe in the cause they are fighting for. Yes. They believe that the rest of us who are Kafirs should be conquered and converted to their own brand of Islam. You understand? Yes. And nothing. So even if you wipe out the current group, you still have others who have already been indoctrinated and who will take up the weapons and come after you. I think we should also be prepared for a long haul. But all we need to do really is to get the military prepared at all times to take on the insurgents.
Indeed.
But it's not something we should expect that by next year or in the next 2 years, Boko Haram is gone completely. No.
Yeah, and indeed, and just to add a little thing to what you've just said, until very, very recently, Boko Haram was seen as the deadliest terrorist group in the world.
Yeah.
Deadliest in the world. And that's going by the sheer volume of numbers of people that have been killed. Good morning, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yori, and greetings to everybody there.
Indeed, thank you for calling in.
Uncle Yori, the subject matter you brought up this morning has brought out the question that needs to be addressed. These NGOs that are at the war front, what is the basis of qualifying to be an NGO in our war front? Is it you just register as an NGO and you are free to go and do what you like? Or isn't there a screening system by the Ministry of Defense?
Clearinghouse, sort of.
On who, yes, a clearinghouse, yes, who can be there and can be monitored, the activities can be monitored, because, Uncle Yori, for some time now, it has been in the public space that some disgruntled elements and unpatriotic Nigerians, including election losers, had penetrated this war to make it look as if the government is not able to fight it or to tackle it. Through these so-called NGOs and through some, some disloyal military personnel themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there should be, in my view, a monitoring system on who is an NGO in that place, so that it's obvious that corruption has crept into the system.
Mm-hmm.
We should also try to address that. In that light, I'm beginning to think that those who are saying that service chiefs should be changed or rotated from time to time, they seem to have a point in that manner. If you are staying for too long, chances are that your strategic bank can get exhausted and you will not know. Why not every two years or something to rotate them or make some changes? They don't necessarily have to retire from the force, or you just change their duties so that these strategies can become dynamic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. George. Let me let the former soldier speak to that.
Yeah, he has really made an important point, but it's good I correct one impression. At that level of service chief, once you are relieved,
You can't remain the
you are
first.
out of service because you've already attained the highest point in your career. If you say remain in service, the next service chief becomes a senior? No. What nearly every soldier dreads is a situation where you begin to pay official compliments to your junior. Humbly give way and let him take his rightful place. Okay? That takes care of that. And then what was the other issue he brought up, which I had wanted
Well,
to react
that
to?
Qualification for NGOs.
What are the,
Yes, yes. There are clearing houses. The government clears NGOs when they come in. And of course, too, the military headquarters has a say in who comes in there to a greater extent. Okay. Thank God now we have a Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs headed by Hajia, who now I can't remember. But I know we have a ministry for to take care of humanitarian affairs. I think things will be well coordinated now under such a ministry. Okay. I expect to see greater coordination. I expect to see better response, in the field now. Now that there is a clear-cut channel, not just only the Foreign Affairs Ministry to direct such matters to. The Ministry of Humanitarian will handle that.
Okay. Henry in the UK, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Yes, please. I want just to add some little debate to your program.
Well, okay.
You see, I'm one of the old soldiers that fought during the Biafran War.
Okay.
And in fact, if we won't deceive ourselves, during that very time, there was a method used to prolong the war at that time by some of our corrupt military commanders at that time. A war that's supposed to have less than 3 months because of corruption. You see, emergency contractors just spring up. It becomes a very global trade. You see, that was then. It has become an history. I don't need to go there. The present situation today had some element of what transpired during that time. You could see that when we are trying to Colonel Labo is there. He can tell the truth, but in as much you are no more in the force, tell the truth. Our leadership, they are supposed to have a change. They are now using this very war to escalate it and start trading with it. Trading with it. The politicians went on clandestine underground to the present military commanders in the war front. What happened in the 70s when we were fighting the Biafran war? It cannot end. Because you're doing that, the politicians are trading with it. Ammunitions are coming during that time until a stage that time said wars are not fought the way we are fighting. You need to barricade and cut the supply line of Boko Haram in that area. Within some clusters of time, these people will hands up. Just tell me, Uncle Yori, the last time I saw Boko Haram with brand new chassis of Toyota hybrids, they are fueling these vehicles on daily basis. Where does petrol come to these vehicles? Let's have, at least, look at the map of Nigeria. That area called Sambisa Forest belongs to a particular local government in either Yoruba or Borno State. I don't know why we could not address this. We continue beating the shadow until when all these things are addressed before we can know where we are actually going.
All right, then.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. Henry. Appreciate you. Okay, we'll take a quick break now. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, and we're looking at the efforts of the Nigeria Army in this ongoing campaign. You know, little bit of a bright spark. 5 insurgents surrendered to the army. We were then, by connection, looking at the fact that hunger was one of the things that preliminary interrogations say contributed to these guys deserting and handing themselves over to the army. Of course, the army is still continuing its investigation. Now, just before we went on break, Mr. Henry in the UK, an old soldier himself, as he himself put it, he seemed to be saying that, look, the more we think things change, the more they remain the same. And he was referring back to the other unfortunate conflict Nigeria has had to be through, which is a civil war. And he's saying that he's not particularly surprised with all of this. And then he made some assertions that I'm concerned about where the proof for that will come from. Curtis, you're a lawyer, so this whole matter about proof and all of that is important.
Yeah, I think we also need to be extremely careful about making conjecture here. We have no proof whatsoever that the service chiefs are benefiting from the war situation. We have no proof that they want the war to continue because they want to benefit from it more. And so we have to be extremely careful in making this characterization. However, the general impression is that the war has created a big and viable market for some set of people.
Vibrant.
Yes, vibrant markets for some people. And so where we have such evidence, we will not fail to point them out. But as of today, we don't have such evidence. What I will say rather is that I do understand that the need for some Nigerians who believes that by now the president should have changed the service chiefs, brought in some new men with new ideas. There is no guarantee that once we change the service chiefs, we will have instant security. It does promise, there is promise that they could come with better ideas that probably will invigorate, the action on the part of our military, I mean, it's neither here nor there. But having said that, I think we also must understand that the president is the commander-in-chief. He gets the briefings that we don't see.
From his field command.
He knows what is going on in the war front. He knows the people and the skills and the competencies he has deployed to combat. And I think that if forever, for whatever reasons, if he begins to doubt their ability to continue on the path of victory, I think he will make that change. Yes. It's not somebody who is afraid of making changes. That we have seen clearly. So I want us to get behind the current service chiefs that we have and offer them our support for as long as the president deemed it fit for them to be on their seats.
One of the things that Mr. Henry said, there was some sort of military language that, look, hunger is part of it. There's all sorts of weaponry, and he, being a Nigerian patriot, he's a bit impatient. Say, look, any soldier knows what to do. Cut off some lines. You heard him. Cut off lines. Block this. Make sure. Then let me see you fight on an empty stomach.
A good number of the air bombardments we've been having have contributed to that, cutting off the line of supplies of the enemy.
Yes.
That's what we call it.
One moment, please. I'm told that somebody has been waiting for a long time, so I'll come straight back to you and I'll try to remember to pick it up from cutting off the line of supply to the enemy and what you wanted to say about that. Good morning, Comrade Ayo in Oshobo.
Good morning, Uncle.
Thank you for calling in.
Uncle, let me start by saying I want to align my position with Mr. Henry, London.
Okay.
Uncle, if we really want to end this war is simple. How did Boko Haram get RMG or RPG machine? RPG machine is not too big that you put into the pocket across the border. You are not getting
RPG being for we civilians, rocket-propelled grenades.
So you don't.
Because when you soldiers are speaking, you forget that we soldiers, we ordinary civilians, we need to know what you're talking about. Please continue.
So you can't get those machines. You have put it in your pocket. You are not getting through the port or the air. How do they get those machines? So if we really want to stop this war, now we know ways to stop it. We don't need a commitment and stop corruption. Because corruption, I kept on saying it, corruption is our number one problem. If we can reduce corruption to the barest minimum, we'll see all the things we are seeing. We just go on. We don't need big grammar to solve all these problems.
Okay. All right. Then, Comrade Ayo, thank you very much for calling in. Coming back to you, Colonel Stan Labo, and, cutting off the supplies of the enemy.
Yeah, I said the bulk of the bombardments has been ongoing. To a greater extent has assisted in that direction. Cutting off the enemy's supply lines to ensure that it is starved of its basic needs.
It's not in humanitarian.
Yes.
It's not in humanitarian tactic.
No. It's a strategy in war. Okay. You need to do that.
Okay.
You must do it. You must cut off your supply line. When they cut off your supply lines, no food for your troops, nothing is coming in, and so on. It forces you to give up on time, and that is what. And that was why I said, look, the 5 insurgents whom the PRO was talking about, the Army PRO was talking about, it's a good omen to us that those guys made such confessions that, look, hunger was becoming something else in their camp. It means, yes, then we are succeeding.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Whether or not people understood the Nigerian army fully, that was indeed the connection that we made, and we're trying to understand how good a connection it is. But let me quickly bring in Joshua. Mr. Joshua in Irewole, good morning, sir.
Uncle Yori, good morning, sir.
Thank you for calling in.
And I greet your guest.
Sure.
If I was in the studio, I would have problems with Kadiz Adigba. I don't know whether he's speaking for the military or not. For me, I have no reason to...
No, I think I can interject and say He's not speaking for the military.
I'm speaking for myself.
Yes, he's speaking for himself
speaking for
as a
yourself.
commentator, very much the way you do.
It's an
That's it.
opinionated
Okay, I
Nigerian.
appreciate it, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just want to say, if anybody has a reason to buy a dummy story, I am not one of them.
Okay.
I
How do you mean?
myself, yes, you know this Boko Haram. I was going to tell you, some of your guests are talking about ragtag army and bandits who take advantage of soft targets. I think they don't really know what this matter is if they are describing it that way. A ragtag army that has taken over local government, sees the whole local government. How ragtag are they? What is soft target about a whole local government? Don't they know the geographical expression of a local government in a state? They are most times very close to Maiduguri. We sit in the comfort of our room, 10 p.m. every news. The first thing you are going to hear is Boko Haram killing people. Don't these people know that there's a psychological effect on us about these things? So my own is, Boko Haram is not a ragtag army. This is not an unconventional warfare. We have to tell ourselves the truth. This is a full-blown war where you have an enemy that has a location. You are talking about Boko Haram in Sambisa forest. And then when they are coming to attack their target, they go through a route, they have vehicles, they have troops, they have everything, state-of-the-art vehicles, guns. These are not unconventional fighters. This is a full-blown war that has succeeded for a very long time. I will say it is because of corruption. It is corruption that cannot be defeated, not an ideology that has been turned to a war. So we should look at corruption. These army chiefs, okay, one of your guests the other time said the beneficiaries, those that we thought are victims of this war, they are the actual beneficiary of it economically. So, and when people are benefiting from a war, they don't want it to end. So we need to come to the point of saying, look, we are affected because these are fellow Nigerians. Should we continue to ignore the killing of people? No. If they want it to go that way, then they should stop reporting the matter on news to us. We are tired of hearing bloodshed. We are tired. They should end that war or remove the army chiefs, remove all of them. They should end the war.
Okay.
Give them a marching order, like the president has relaxed. We have a right to advise the president. We are Nigerians.
Okay.
We have a right to advise him. He has slept because he recovered several local governments from these people when he came in newly. Now it's like he's relaxing. He should go back and end the war. That is the mandate for his second term.
All
if
right.
not, we will consider him a failure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for calling in, Mr. Joshua.
I think Mr. Joshua needs to understand, like D.P. Moynihan said, that you are entitled to your opinion, but you are not entitled to your own set of facts. And the facts are there for Nigerians to see. There is nobody who has anything to do with the military or who understands the nature of warfare, who will then characterize what is going on in Nigeria as a normal, conventional warfare situation.
It's not.
Now he's talking about knowing the people, knowing the combatants. If we know the combatants, the military would have taken them out.
Of course.
Even the Sambisa forest that he's talking about today, and a lot of people don't even know what is the Sambisa forest. You go to the Sambisa forest now, it's occupied by Nigerian army. Nigerian soldiers have taken over Sambisa forest. The combatants themselves have melted into the civil populace.
Yes.
Within the northeast.
Completely.
And so you are living with those who are fighting you, but not knowing that they are fighting you.
And that's what makes it unconventional. And
so
an asymmetric warfare.
Until you are able to win the hearts and minds of those who are not part of that system, for them to start showing you who the enemies are.
Yes.
You cannot win this war. And so when he says, let's just go there, identify these people and flush them
They
out.
will fizzle out.
It doesn't happen that way.
They will fizzle out.
And so I think that he needs to take more time and understand what is
understand,
going on
yes,
there before coming to make this emphatic statements and then says he will have problem with someone who has innocently expressed his own opinion.
He does not have a good grasp.
He doesn't understand what is going on there.
Yes, he doesn't.
Mr. Tobiloba in Agbado, good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, I think I would like to align with your guest, who is a retired colonel and a security analyst. The majority people does not know what is really happening about the Boko Haram insurgency. Boko Haram insurgency is more than what we can magnify. It's more than what we can even think of. I did a research concerning them, and I realized that Nigeria's government are really trying their best about them. And I would say, which the colonel can also approve with that the current chief of army staff has tried his possible best in the Nigerian army. And I would say he's one of the best chief of staff we have ever had currently now. Because Nigerian army, which we have known before, is not the same Nigerian army, though they have their own challenges. But with that, I think they are winning war against Boko Haram. And changing of chief of army staff is beyond what we can imagine, because they will implement a new policy or a new tactic to win the war.
Okay.
And it will keep bringing a demoral entity to the soldiers at the war front. I believe what they have done in trying to cut down the supplies of the enemy is the best. But I will also advise the Nigerian army, those people who are surrendering their arms and ammunition should be checked properly, because we have in security terms, we have what we call double agents. This Boko Haram of the team, we have double agents in the Nigerian army and double agents in the Boko Haram. So because these double agents, they can lay down their ammunition, pretending as if they are trying to surrender.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, they are trying to infiltrate into the Nigerian army, which they want to know their tactics and how to win the war. But I would say Nigerian army is trying their possible best, and I will always appreciate them for that. God bless the Nigerian army, and thank you.
Indeed, thank you very much.
Yori, let me just say this. You see, I'm not somebody who believes in showering praises on leaders, because I believe when you praise leaders, especially our type of leaders, you are always spoiling them. Instead, keep being constructive in whatever criticism you are doing, so that he continues to improve and will yield better gains from his service. If you sample the opinion in the service, among servicemen, about the present chief of army staff, frankly speaking, there are people who will tell you, look, we've never had it so good in recent times. I'm telling you the truth. I'm not here to sing his praise after I'm out of service. I can run him down if I feel otherwise. But I am only being factual and truthful.
Okay.
The improvements he has brought into the army since he took over as chief, what he has done in terms of welfare, I'm not saying he cannot still be better improved. But at least it has elevated. He has been able to ensure that troops are earning better in the forward lines by way of allowances and so on. Condition of their rations, and so on. You just mentioned
all of which help increase the effectiveness
of the fighting troops
to do the job in the first place.
Thank you.
That's the most important thing.
So when you have such a leadership in place, and the commander-in-chief is seeing such things, you can hardly convince him to want to change him. And that's why at times I just answer people that, well, they are the appointees of the commander-in-chief. If he does not feel that there is a need to change them, well, all we need to do is to give them our support.
They will continue, and we have to have
a good number of them are really trying. I agree. Somebody might tell you, but they've run out of ideas, and so on and so forth. Fine. But then, the man in charge of them is not seeing it that way. And however, what we see on ground is an improvement from what they met.
Okay.
Look at when they took over
It's
initially.
It's interesting you put it that way, that especially the running out of ideas bit,
Yes.
because I've read a lot of commentary as well.
Right,
Because
right.
they are saying the papers.
But we have to identify the ideas before understanding whether they run out of
whether
it or
they
not.
have actually run out of ideas. Mr. Yakub in Dokwemu, good morning, sir, and thank you, as always, for holding on.
Thank you very much, okay. And good morning to the Colonel and Mr. Adiba.
Sure.
Morning.
Thank you so much.
You see, for me, I don't think one of the corners says that we are fighting conventional war. I dare to disagree with that person. Yes, he has his own right to his personal opinion. Likewise, I do as well. See, if you are fighting conventional war, I can tell you Nigerian military, they're capable of taking anybody out if they know where your base is. We are talking about Sambisa that is more likely that the whole southwest, as case may be. See, if not for the military of this country, me and you cannot be able to sit down that studio. The way Boko Haram is going, late in 2015 and thereabouts. We give kudos to these people. They have the family, they have the relatives. Some of the people, some of our fighters in the war front, they laid down their lives. Instead of Nigerian ordinary citizens, me and you, people pray for them to continue this one, then fight and finish it once and for all. Some of us we are using our mouth to demoralize them, which is not good. I would say that if Babajide Otitology will always say something in that studio when they handle their own program. He knows some local government that Boko Haram will never like to lose. And then he always tell Nigerian military that they should be able to cut that very particular local government. Because they take that very particular local government that Babajide Otitology normally says. As a local government, they normally trade their weapons, including the food. That is why they continue to attack that very particular local government every time they know that our military are there. They will make sure that they go there, they take our military up there, they kill them some time ago. See, the Nigerian military should be able to, I know that they are listening to journalists and that, likewise this program as well. They should be able to take some advice those guys are providing, because it seems to me that Babajide knows some local governments in that Borno state, and then he knows the priority of those local governments, and then always mention it. Yes, thereabouts. One of the callers said something earlier that when they're fighting in the 1960s, in the down war of 1960 of 18, when we are fighting to take Nigeria as a one, it's different from this kind of a war we are facing now. Okay. Because the enemy within, we are fighting the enemy within, enemy that you don't know. They will come, they attack you, and then rush back. Are you getting it? So, for me, you cannot compare somebody like Abubakar Sadiq, the chief of air staff. I give kudos to this guy because they know how to take these people from here. And then they comprehend what the army on the ground are doing. For me, Nigerian government should be able to provide necessary weapons for them. If they provide necessary weapons for them, I can tell you, they will take this guy out. Because Boko Haram does not have aircraft that can fly over Nigeria. We have that priority over them. We can fly up, we can take them from the ground. Okay. But here we are. Okay. We don't know where these people are. Yes, we know they are in Sambisa forest. If they know they can face Nigerian citizens, they can face Nigerian military. Why can't them come out? Okay, yes, we are Boko Haram, we are ready to face it. They know they can't do that because they don't have that priority. Okay. So, in a nutshell, God Almighty will allow us to finish this war, and then we are going to win it. Thank you and God bless you.
Indeed. Thank you very much for calling in. And something you said, something Yakub said in there about these regrettable losses we're getting from these people coming out of hiding, like moles, and hitting and going back into hiding, and all these losses that we're taking. One of the things that is resulting from this is that the army is about to change its tactics somewhat, and now their camps, instead of being as they are now, they're now talking about what is known in your sector as a super camp. Yes, what exactly, one has some sort of an idea, but this taking on super camps now.
Yeah, the super camp concept is where you bring in a concentration of force, okay, to a particular place, rather than dissipating them all over. When you dissipate them all over, you become far more highly vulnerable to the enemy force, especially those ones that are along the supply routes of the enemy. Yeah. They will do everything to knock away any deployment along their supply route, because otherwise they are in trouble. And that's why you discover that there are certain particular places, even when they come and you go back, they knock you off, they go back, and so on.
They're very desperate to hold
They are
certain
desperate
places.
to hold it. So now, besides, given the situation that we must be realistic when we analyze these things, we have a manpower issue.
Okay.
When you look at all these factors put together, you now say, okay, why don't I concentrate my force and release them when it becomes necessary to go carry out what we want to be done, and you fall back. Why the air component is taking on certain strategic locations and so on.
Okay, so simply put,
that's a great strategy, but it also has some downside.
I was going to say,
and
it
the
scares me,
downside
but
is that you become a sitting lame duck for the enemy to
because
come at you.
there's so many of your assets in one metaphoric basket, which
what they need to do is probably infiltrate your camp and then met out the heaviest damage and destruction from time to time.
You are right, my brother, but that is where your surveillance capabilities now come.
It's weak.
That's where it now comes in. When you go into concentration of force, what do you do to take care of the open?
You have a corridor, a military corridor, that the air patrol is all the time. But again, also, without pages, they're also exposed. But then you have to have super fast jets or reconnaissance mission.
None of which Boko Haram has
anyway,
is the point
but I think
because we have,
you see, we're so anxious.
There is no air parity between us and Boko Haram.
Yeah.
Because we have air superiority over them, and we are using it to our advantage. Given this idea now of super camps, our equipment in terms of surveillance equipment now goes into play, and that's where technology comes in.
Okay.
Mr. Ure, I was going to make one point.
Actually, we've run out of time.
And that point is, those people who have this belief that Boko Haram is in one place and you just go and take them because you have your power is so much. So you understand that the biggest superpower in the world is America. They have been fighting in Afghanistan
for years.
They've not been able to do it.
And they've not been able to defeat the Taliban.
Exactly.
So they must understand that.
So even though we haven't exhausted the conversation, we're going to have to leave it for now. And, continuing to say kudos to our boys. There's a lot more that can be done. They can do a lot better. But most Nigerians show appreciation for what they are doing, what they continue to do, and what hopefully through God and their power and their efficiency, we're able to just finish with this assignment and get on with our lives. I want to thank you very much, Curtis Adigbe.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you very much, Colonel Hassan Stanley.
I mean, 1 hour is gone now.
Just like a flash.
So much.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming on. So that's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.